This is the final word. T20 World Cup Daily, day 26, coming to you from the NASA Command Room / Broadcast Cricket Hub in Barbados. I'm Geoff Lemon. Bharat Sundaresan is at the ground in Trinidad. It was the first semi-final between South Africa and Afghanistan. The show is brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. If you want to go and watch the final at Westfield London, a lot of our listeners are watching that at the watch party there at Sixes at the cricket venue there, which will be Saturday afternoon, London time. Right, Bharat, it's time. You can. I don't know if you can do this game in 30 seconds. It wasn't as long as some, but a lot happened. Let's see you give it a go.
South Africa are in a men's World Cup final. Yes, you heard it right. South Africa are in a men's World Cup final for the first time ever, and it's been a complete smashing of Afghanistan. You have to feel bad for Afghanistan. They won the toss, elected to bat, and then they were blown away. Marco Jansen struck in the first over, and then he kept striking. Rabada struck, Nokia struck, Shamsi struck, and they were rolled over 56. Naveen ul Haq and Fazal Haq's Faruqi were nearly unplayable to start with. They lose Quinton de Kock, but Aiden Markram keeps his cool alongside Reza Hendricks, and South Africa win by 9 wickets, and South Africa are in a men's World Cup final.
It has happened. It has happened. After all of those semi-final stuff-ups, all of the problems, all of the runs of bad luck against them, well, the luck went with them tonight and basically went with them when Afghanistan elected to bat on the spiciest surface we've seen. And I think you could say this was on the way to too spicy. Honestly, this pitch got worse as the game went on. South Africa were really struggling in the second innings, and it wasn't just like, if there's seam movement, that's one thing. There's lateral movement, okay, that's fine. The inconsistent bounce on this, we had balls pitching on a length, going through at about neck height and then ballooning over the wicket keeper, but given as byes, not wides, because they weren't wides when they passed the bat. We had balls pitching on the same length, hitting halfway up middle stump. We had the ball tracking was going crazy with the different variations on what could happen. It looked legitimately dangerous to bat out there. It seems to me that had this been a longer game, they would probably have called it off. I think it feels like they only got through it because Afghanistan got bowled out so quickly that they knew they only had to get through a few overs on this. I mean, it was hairy out there, and it was difficult for South Africa. They only had 57 to chase, and yet there were a few overs there where you thought, well, they might struggle to get this, and they'll probably get the 56. But had they been chasing 96, they might not have got there. I mean, this genuinely did not look like a pitch that was up to the standard of an international cricket match being played on it.
And definitely not a World Cup semi-final. I think you're right from the beginning, from the first over. Yes, you had a tall Marco Jansen bowling on this, but one kept low, one jumped, and when you have guys like Nokia and Jansen and Rabada, who's bowling really quick as well, hitting the late 140s and the early 150s, you don't want to be a batter out there. And especially when, like you said, you can't trust the bounce. You don't know when you're going to get hit. And honestly, I think we are lucky that no batter really suffered a pretty serious injury. Quinton de Kock was hit somewhere in the hip in the first over, but apart from that, a lot of stumps being smashed out of the ground. But luckily, no injury to any player. But easily, somebody could have copped something on the head or on the body, and it could have been pretty dangerous, or even on the hands and broken a finger. So I think we are lucky on that front. But yeah, I mean, it is a the ICC will look back at this pitch and say, "No, we can't be playing a World Cup semi-final on a surface like this. It's simply not good enough."
Yeah, and what other option did they have? Once they've gone all in on the venues for these semi-finals, and I wonder what might happen in Guyana, because we saw some pretty ordinary surfaces there earlier in the tournament as well. It has been a theme throughout that there have been a lot of lower scoring games, which can be a good thing. It can make things more interesting. But this wasn't just low scoring. This wasn't just difficult to figure out a way to score without getting out. This was difficult to figure out a way to stay in without getting injured. We saw Markram get hit in the ribs a couple of times, and Afghanistan looked all at sea on this pitch. We've talked about the fact that there's such a heavy reliance on their opening bats. They're out quickly. So Ramanullah Gurbaz is, at one point we thought today might not play because of that blow on the knee that he got the other night. He ends up playing, but it doesn't make any difference. He edges Jansen to slip, and this is after Jansen's bowled a few wides down the leg side, so he's going from one side to the other, sort of outside the right-hander's leg stump and then outside his off stump. They have a slip in and a leg slip, so aggressive from South Africa. They make the most of that, get him caught it slip. Gulbuddin Naib comes in at number 3, which feels about 6 spots too high for me for Gulbuddin to be batting. Whacks a couple of boundaries, does his best, and then he's gone. Maybe a feather of an inside edge from Jansen as the left armour angle is coming across him and takes out his off stump. And then Rabada comes on and gets 2 wickets in his first over. So Ibrahim Zadran gone leg stump, the ball cutting back, and then Mohammad Nabi's bowled off stump with the ball cutting back even more from a wider line. So incredible jag that Rabada was getting with the seam up. They're 4 down at that point, and then I'm not sure why they send out Nangialia Karote to bat at number 5. I mean, Azmatullah's out there already, but so he would have been at 6 by this point.
6,
but he's somebody with a very limited batting record in any T20 cricket. He gloves Jansen for 2, and that's it. Basically, they're 5 for bugger all, and then it's over to Shamsi to get a few umpires call LBWs and pretty much run through the rest of the innings.
Yeah, I mean, and as we speak, I can see the Afghanistan team are just taking a guard of honor, just rocking around the ground. There aren't a lot of Afghan fans. They were a handful. I saw just sat right below where I am right now. I mean, it's you felt bad for Afghanistan. I mean, yes, we spoke a lot about the pitch, but just the emotional ups and downs that they have had to endure and experience in the last 4 nights. Yes, they got the advantage of playing back-to-back games in St. Vincent, but the Australia game and then that crazy Bangladesh game to lift themselves up again. Yes, is their first semi-final, and they were on. I was there downstairs watching them train. You could see they had that energy about them. Rashid Khan, Dwayne Bravo, Jonathan Trott having all these meetings and discussions. But once they lost Gurbaz, and I think if you're an Australian fan watching this, the first thought that would come to your mind is, why did Australia drop Mitchell Starc? Why did they do that? And this is exactly what we spoke about after that game. Starc bowls 2 right-handed openers. He gets a wicket in the first over so often. Exactly what Jansen did. And yeah, I mean, you felt for the middle order. Mohammad Nabi, the president at 37, 38 or whatever, or he's in his late 30s, let's just call it that. His bat came down so late on that ball. It almost felt like it was a bit too quick for him from Rabada. And yeah, they looked a little out of depth. You felt like maybe one batter would stick around and give them some runs. Rashid Khan was the one you backed, and Rashid Khan ran out to bat. It almost felt like he was angry with everything that was happening. He hit a couple of boundaries, but again, even he wasn't good enough for Nokia.
I mean, just some spooky shot selection. So Azmatullah whacks one over cover and then tries to go again and gets caught off Nokia. Rashid Khan plays one beautifully, gets in behind the line from Nokia, punches it to point, and then the next ball hops outside leg stump and has a waft and gets bowled. It was bizarre. They get wrapped up in the end for that score of 56, the 4th lowest score in the tournament, the lowest ever semi-final score at a T20 World Cup. And then, Quinton de Kock is bowled by Fazl Haq Faruqi early. Good setup, gets him swinging away a lot to the left-hander, and then gets one angled in that cuts in a long way and bowls him. And Hendricks and Markram really battled for a few overs against Naveen and Faruqi, but in the end they were able to sort of wait out that early movement of the ball, keep batting through, and it was the 9th over when they knocked off the runs. So South Africa through. We've seen the South African women play a T20 World Cup final at home against Australia a couple of years ago, maybe 18 months ago it was. At the moment, and the South African men's team won the ICC knockout back when it was the Wills International Cup in 1998. Absolutely. And they won a Commonwealth Games gold medal. You can't take that away from Sean Pollock, Commonwealth Games gold medalist. He's always got that over Steve Waugh. Enjoy your silver medal, Steve. But they're through to an actual badged World Cup final for the men's team for the first time, and that will be the talking point, whoever they come up against out of the India and England game that'll come up very, very soon indeed.
And if you're Aiden Markram, you say, well, I've taken South Africa to a World Cup final before and won a World Cup final. He was the under-19 captain when South Africa won that final. So, and here he is, a World Cup final again, first time ever for a men's team, and he is in charge. Before we move on, have to mention Naveen ul Haq. He was unplayable. Yes, the pitch had a lot on offer for him. I think at the moment, I know Jasprit Bumrah is just operating at another level, but Naveen ul Haq is right up there. What a World Cup he's had. He's been sensational with the new ball, come back with the death and taken wickets, held his nerve. And he was so unlucky. He could have taken 4 or 5 wickets, it felt like. The ball beat bat a lot. But it wasn't to be. And you're right, Geoff. When South Africa started their run chase, you did feel like, what if somehow, Gulbuddin Naib or someone had come off and Afghanistan had pushed this target to say 80 or 90. Who knows how this game would have panned out. It would not have been easy at all.
Tough.
It could have been tough, especially once the spinners came on. So, 56 was never going to be much of a challenge. And like we saw, once they got past 2025, the runs came very quickly and it was over and done with. And South Africa are in a men's World Cup final.
They're in. Quick break, back in a tick. Final word, T20 World Cup Daily. This is a shout out from Westfield to the Limp Bizkit fans out there. Anyone with 2 ears and a heart will tell you that Fred Durst is not only the greatest frontman of all time, but perhaps the greatest hip-hop artist of all time. His ability to caress the deepest reaches of the soul with lyrics like "I need a Kleenex every time I'm leaving Phoenix" is truly unparalleled. And while it may be tempting for you to break stuff on your next visit to Westfield London, maybe you should heed Fred's advice and keep rolling into Flipper's Roller Boogie Palace for the most fun you can have with 2 wheels tied to your feet. 30% off all group bookings until the end of October. There's no better time for you to bring your friends and family to London's coolest venue to skate, eat and party. Westfield London, bring your significant other. You a roller skater? I could see you roller skating, particularly if you had a colourful pair to strap on.
Yeah, I used to roller skate as a kid. We used to have roller skating classes in school, and I was one of the first to sign up for it. So I used to have a pair of roller skates at home for a long time. I should get back to it. I used to really have fun. That's the only thing I could balance myself on, not a bicycle.
Okay. Hall of Fame, what have you got? I think I just have to go with this hub situation here where, for those of us who couldn't actually get to Trinidad, we've got this kind of ground control operation which somehow has an enormous press conference area set up that, despite there being no press here, but you can turn on these microphones and then
ask questions.
Make sure that everybody in the room can hear you. So
maybe they are hearing you right now downstairs.
I hope so. It's useful to have that shot in your locker. Anything jump out for you today?
It happened during the innings break. Rashid Khan was fuming. He was just angry. He just wanted to get out there. He got his team into a huddle. He gave them this rousing speech. And then he realized the umpires hadn't come out. And he walked up to the 4th umpire from Pakistan and said, "Hey, where is everyone? Like, I'm ready. We're ready. We want to somehow defend this total." And then the 4th umpire said, "No, we're not ready. You have to go back." So they had to go back. And then Jonathan Trott had a chat with the 4th umpire as well. I don't know whether they just wanted to get it done with as soon as they could, or Rashid Khan really thought he wanted to make an impact. And not to forget, they blew a chance when they did not review of Naveen ul Haq's bowling when Markram had got an edge. So
that's true. Could have been
so
2
I
for
guess
6 for 2.
It could have been. And Rashid was filthy with that call as well. I remember he fielded a ball at mid-off and chucked it at the keeper like it was his fault. I think, and just around that time when he was waiting for the umpires to come out, I remember just looking down and Rashid cut this follow-on figure. He was just looking into the distance, and he's had such an emotional week as captain of Afghanistan. But look, we are here to celebrate South Africa reaching their first ever men's World Cup final. But let's also take a moment to talk about Afghanistan having made their first semi-final. It didn't go their way, but for them to get here, you almost see right every World Cup they play, 50 over or 20 overs, they take one step up. So the final's coming up whenever they play a next World Cup.
2026, you heard it here first. All right. That is it from us today. We've got another semi-final coming up very soon indeed. So, the final word, T20 World Cup Daily. It's done. We're out. That's the first one. That's the first semi-final. Thank you, Bharat Sundaresan in Trinidad. We'll see you again on the feed soon, and everybody else very shortly. Bye.
See you.